Hello, my lovelies. So I promised this live stream due to my recent posts, and this is a bit more of a serious topic. And usually I know that I talk about lots of sexy things, but today this is going to be a little bit more serious. And this is something I'm super passionate about, is really helping women in particular, although I also work with men, to really empower themselves after they've been through a lot of pain in relationships, a lot of suffering, but also particularly around abuse. And after a couple of posts I did the other day, there was a bit of stuff that came through around when I used the word self-responsibility. And so I wanted to jump on and just make this really clear for you exactly what I mean by that. And I'm going to sort of explain some of the processes that I take my clients through, whether they come to a workshop or a retreat or we're working one-on-one, that I take them from coming out of some sort of situation, or maybe it's a past relationship that they need some healing around, when there's been some sort of abuse, to really coming into a place of empowerment and feeling like they can go into healthy relationship with themselves, healthy relationship with other people in their lives, okay? And this doesn't mean romantic relationship. It can also mean, family relationships, friend relationships, all this sort of stuff. So, if you look at me now, and most of you that know me, I speak quite publicly about my story, and you see me as a very empowered woman, right? And I feel very empowered. And when I say empowered, this is really key to know, is that empowerment for me is actually not being triggered by any of my past experiences, but it's still having an open heart, okay? So when I say not being triggered, what I mean by that is actually being able to manage any triggers that come up as well, because even if we've done so much healing, we're still going to get triggered, okay? So not really allowing those triggers to really affect me or shut me down, okay? And often we're going into this fight, flight, or freeze when we are getting triggered by something, and I have all the tools and processes to manage that. So when I talk about empowerment, and I say this because people sometimes think they're empowered when they're being that tough, strong, I don't need anyone else, I can do everything on my own, and independent, and I don't need anyone, that sort of thing is not necessarily coming from an empowered place, and maybe coming from a place of fear, a place of safety, and we actually shut ourselves down, and we don't let people win, or we distance ourselves, or someone does something and we're like, I'm going to block you out, or I'm going to run away, okay, and I'm going to empower myself more. That's not empowerment, okay? So empowerment for me is being able to really self-reflect on my experiences and still go into life with an open heart, still be open to new experiences, and know when I'm going into fear or when I'm going to safety, and looking at that and looking at how I'm showing up. So this is where some of the self-responsibility stuff can come in. So what I tend to do with most of the clients that come to see me, the first thing I'll get them to do, and we do this in a workshop space as well, is actually tell me from a victimized perspective, and tell me what's happened, what they've been through, and really explore what these emotions are, what they're feeling, how it made them feel at the time, okay? What are the stories that they were telling themselves? All that sort of stuff, okay? And this is really to help to bring up the emotions. Because what I've noticed, and is really common, is people go into the mindset and trying to self-reflect or trying to make sense of what happened without clearing the emotional shit, basically. And that actually isn't going to work long term. That's just going to keep creating unhealthy patterns. You have to shift the emotions. You have to allow yourself to feel the pain, okay? And feel the rage, feel the anger for what someone, in the victimized perspective did to you, okay? So really important that you feel all those things, okay? And because otherwise you're just numbing them, okay? And this is, again, the pretend empowerment, is when you think you've dealt with that and it's in the past, but it actually is still going to come up in the present, where that's, self-sabotage, or whether you're going into fear, whether you're running away, all that sort of stuff will play out until you actually work on releasing and feeling and healing those emotions, okay? This is really important. And so the reason I get my clients to really tell me from the victimized, and I say, I want you to tell me what it was like, from what that person did to you. What do you blame them for? What do you resent them for? What are your biggest complaints? and really getting to bring up those emotions so that we can clear it and shift it through a lot of different emotional release tools. And then, we clear that, and we also go into identifying the rewounding. Okay, so anything that comes up, again and again, that's a pattern, and you're being rewounded consistently. Okay, and until you heal that wound at its source, it's going to keep happening to you. Okay, and so this is when, once we've kind of identified where that comes from, we can really self-reflect and be self-responsible. Okay, so this is where I want to talk about self-responsibility, and I want to make it really clear here. Okay, if we've been abused in some way, we're never responsible for someone else's actions or reactions. Okay, we're not responsible. Okay, if you've been abused, it's not your fault. Okay, you don't want to blame yourself, and blame is actually a form of shame. You're shaming yourself. Like and I've been in 3 abusive relationships, right? I would go into, I should have known better. Okay, I can't believe I got into this situation again. Okay, how did I not see it? All this sort of stuff. And I would shame myself. I'd be like, I'm so self-aware. How did I end up in this situation? So it's really important that we don't shame ourselves. Okay, and again, that's a self-blame. All right. And, it's actually not empowering to really blame the other person either, okay? But, that's kind of their responsibility for their actions, okay? That's stuff that they have to look at, and it's up to them if they want to go and do that, right? But what really empowers you, okay, from abusive experiences is obviously clearing all the emotional stuff that has come up, using it as a tool for healing, okay? So, what I see is sometimes if you're being rewounded, this person is coming in to show you what you need to heal, okay? So it doesn't keep showing up again, so you can be empowered. I see the abusers, I don't even necessarily like to call them abusers because, that again, it disempowers me, right? Like, I see these people that have come into my life where I felt some sort of abuse, that they were a gift to me, they were a blessing, because after that I chose to go and do the healing, right? So, and now I'm where I am, standing in front of you, sharing my story and helping other people to heal and to empower themselves, okay? So, and I wouldn't be here sharing this with you if I hadn't gone through those experiences and I hadn't actually chosen to heal, okay? So, what we want to do is when you go into self-responsibility, again, I just want to remind you that you're not responsible for other person's actions or reactions. It's things like, how did you give your power away? Okay, and I'm going to give you some examples from my experience and a lot of my clients that all resonate to this. Okay, so one of the first things that can be in the space is like looking at, well, how did this start out? Like, how were you acting when this started out? So there might have been something like, did your intuition tell you that something wasn't right? Okay, so this happened for me where it was just like, okay, I want to follow this connection, but there's something that's not quite sitting with me. Okay, and I didn't trust it, so I didn't trust my intuition. Okay, I didn't listen to that little voice that said something's not right here. Okay, and I wanted what I wanted. I wanted love, I wanted connection, I wanted company. I felt, lonely at times, and I wanted that. Okay, and so, I didn't have clear boundaries, right? So I was doing things, and I was giving my power away when I started to go into the rescuer. Okay, so and I'm just going to give an example of someone, and this is actually a pattern. Like, this happened like the 3. It was like I did exactly the same thing each time. I saw parts of them that I could help them heal. Okay, and I would play that rescuer, that healer. Okay, and if only they did the work, if only they could see, like, if they just healed themselves, and I could help them, then maybe we could work, and even when they were becoming abusive, it would be like, okay, we do this workshop and we'll go to these counselors and we'll do this stuff. And it was always me organizing it, me doing all of that, okay, to try and help them so we could have this relationship that worked. And part of me was in denial of what was really going on. And we're going to get to that when I talk about enabling, okay? Yeah, so self-abandoning is another one. This is super, super, super common. And if you're watching this, this is one of the biggest things that I ask women at my retreats, is who here has lost themselves in a relationship? and everyone has lost themselves at some point in a relationship, right? And so this is when we self-abandon. We self-abandon our own wants and our own needs, and we may go into people pleasing. Okay, so particularly as women, we are literally like, we are wired to please. Okay, this is like literally, it's in our DNA. Like, we're wired to please. Okay, and men are wired to provide. Okay, so we'll start giving away the things that we love to please the other person, or we'll change the things that we're doing to please the other person, or to spend time with them. You know, maybe I won't go to the yoga class and I'll sleep in and cuddle up, or whatever it is, like little things like that, and then over time that adds up. Okay, so self-abandoning is another thing. And then even, you know, particularly if someone is coming from this controlling space, then you start just giving up things just to keep the peace, and that's an enabling behavior. Okay, so overgiving as well, you know, overgiving with your, you know, your time and your money and gifts and things, like to prove your worth. Okay, so very common pattern is people that stay in abusive relationships or end in these have very low self-worth, which is, you know, pretty much the whole planet. Like, we're consistently told by society that, you know, we're not worthy and we're not good enough, and, you know, it's drilled into us that we need to do better and we need to achieve more, and then we'll be happy, right? So, you know, most of us on the planet have some sort of lack of self-worth, unless we've done a, you know, work on healing ourselves. Okay, because someone who thought they were worthy would not stay in an abusive situation. Okay, so you would just know, well, this is not like valuing and honoring me. Like, I deserve better than this, and then step out, right? So, and you'd put up with things that you wouldn't normally put up with, right? So if you had that great sense of self-love and self-worth. So when I say enabling, okay, so let's touch on enabling. So this is what I'm talking about here, and I mentioned this the other day, is that in my post, is that enabling is these behaviors that actually basically say to the abuser that what you're doing is okay, and I'm going to allow it. And then the abuse continues to happen, okay? So it can be things like having some sort of strategy where you're just trying to keep the peace, okay? So you'll go along with what that person wants, and I've done that, definitely done that before. You know, rather than fighting or causing conflict, you'll just be like, okay, yeah, we'll just do what you want. We'll just do what you want, because I can't even get into another fight, and I just want to deal with it, like, just whatever. And again, completely giving your power away, okay? Again, tolerating less than you deserved. And, you know, as someone who's been in 3 abusive relationships, I know how hard it is to leave. Like, the amount of times, and all 3 of them, that it took me so many times before I actually left. Like, so many times. So I totally get how hard it is, right? It's a lot harder than, you know, people go, just leave. It's like, it's really difficult. Like, it's just this, and this is not a conversation about why that happens. There's a whole other conversation about what's going on for us, what's going on with our, you know, our happy chemicals, and we get addictive, and, you know, that's like woundings from childhood that keep playing out, and this is, you know, a bunch of stuff that I'm not going to go into, but this is a way that we enable the behavior, because if we leave and then we go back, we're like, okay, you know, well, that's okay. I'm just going to, you know, go back at the risk that's going to happen again. And then it keeps happening and happening. Okay. And I so get that it's so hard to leave, right? And then sometimes it's so difficult. You leave and then you go back and you're like, why the fuck did I go back? Like, and I've been sitting there going, why did I do this? And it had it's probably like 8 or 9 times. It's an average of 7 times that partners will go back to abusive partners, like, before they'll actually leave for good, right? 7 times. And I know that I've definitely experienced that, right? And if you're out there and you're watching this and you're in this situation, like, oh, I totally feel you, and please feel free to reach out to me, and hopefully you're in a safe space that you can, because that was the other thing, and this is another way that we enable our behavior. We close ourselves off, okay, from the outside world, okay, almost, you know, being in denial of what's going on, not wanting to own up to what's going on, because I know I felt so shameful. I felt so shameful about what was going on, and I did not want the world to know, like, oh my God, people will think like something wrong with me, like, you know, how can I be in this situation? And, you know, I kept myself small and I kept myself quiet. I was hardly posting on Facebook at the time, And yeah, I was just not associating. I was associating with like two of my friends, right? And if you know me, you know that I'm like, I have lots of friends, and I'm out, and I'm, you know, I'm just, can you imagine like me just like in a 2-bedroom apartment, like with my partner, and hardly on Facebook, and hardly seeing friends, and just, you know, a shadow of my former self. Like my light was so dim, but I was too afraid to say anything. You know, A, what people might think, but, you know, B, the other thing is like, what if it did work out? Okay, this is the thing of like, what if I could fix him? What if I could heal him? What if I could help him? And then I don't want everyone thinking that he's this bad person, right? So this is some of the stuff I was telling myself, and I was making excuses for the behavior. Okay, you know, things like, you know, he just got upset, or he didn't mean it, or be different now, like, you know, he's not really like that. He's not like that all the time. You know, it's been months since that happened, and then it would happen again. So this sort of thing, like, it was just not like denying the behavior, okay? And yeah, the whole idea of, oh, if we just do this, then maybe he'll heal himself, and maybe we can make it work, okay? Things like enabling is cleaning up the other person's mess, absorbing the negative consequences of something that's happened. So, you know, I had an ex, he would smash my phone, smash my laptop, smash my car windows, smash my inside of my car. I was absorbing all those costs. I kept having to replace everything. I kept having to pay for everything. And then I was paying for his stuff as well, okay? So I was then paying for things that he wanted and needed, and supporting him. And, you know, I was playing some, you know, kind of playing the mother role, trying to look after him. But, you know, losing myself in the process, right? And I'm going to talk more about that too, because I had to really look at the way that I was showing up in this role out of a sense of safety, okay? So, and it actually emasculated some of the men I was with, and that's a whole other conversation, but yeah, and it's a touchy subject, and I have to be very careful how to speak about this, and it's something that I want to speak about, and I've been wanting to speak about for a long time, but it's a bit controversial. It's a link to do with emasculation and abuse, and I'm not quite ready to talk about it yet, but I will get there at some point. So things like, you know, not setting any boundaries, okay? And, you know, I was like, boundaries? Like, I'm supposed to have boundaries in this relationship? Like, I thought we're all one, you know, and we do everything together. But boundaries are super important. Like, you need to have healthy boundaries. But I didn't even know, I didn't even understand what that meant, or what that was, or how to set them up, or how to communicate them. But my boundaries were, which a boundary for me is physical, mental, emotional, sexual abuse, right? There's a massive boundary for me. And every time it was being crossed consistently, and I was allowing that, okay? It's like, you know, going back and accepting it, and, you know, listening to those apologies the next day. I'm so sorry, you deserve better. And I was like, oh, it's okay, we can work on it. And then the same thing would keep happening, okay? Other things is that we enable is, yeah, I've already said that one, sorry. Yeah, so hiding yourself, staying silent, like not speaking about what's going on. So staying silent. I know for me, I told 2 friends at the time who were really, really supportive, who will probably watch this, and I love you both. And they stuck by me, but, you know, I didn't tell them absolutely everything, because again, it was the shame. It was the, oh, they're going to think he's a bad person, and I don't want them to think that, because, you know, you might actually work on it, and it might work out, and all this sort of stuff. And, you know, hoping that one day he was going to change and things would be different, and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, totally. Anaya, have I pronounced that right? I hope so. Yeah, totally right. Like, there's so many things. So that's most of the things that what we need to take self-responsibility for is how we gave our power away, how we enabled the behavior. And when we do this, when we look at this, we can go, okay, how do I need to show up now? What do I need to look at? What boundaries do I need to create, okay? Where have I been overgiving to get love, to prove my worth? And do I need to work on loving myself and finding self-worth and healing myself so I do feel worthy, so I don't even end up or attract these situations? You know, where am I rescuing? Like, where am I, you know, how can I just be with myself and honor myself and look at myself, okay, instead of needing to help or fix or save people? You know, where am I over giving money, like things like this. I know, like, I had this pattern of giving men and supporting men in my relationships and being their provider, and underneath that was this idea of safety, that if I'm that, then I'll be safe, okay, because they can't really, you know, like, leave because I'll be supporting, like, but this total subconscious, like, kind of shadowed stuff that was playing out for me, and it was like not fun to look at. But I realized that I hadn't been allowing a man to come in that could actually look after me, like, in different ways. I'm not necessarily talking about financially, but, you know, I was always a looker after, okay? And there was a polarity there that I would attract. Paying the rescuer, I would attract a victim, okay? And that would be magnetic. It would create this magnetic attraction, right? And then, of course, the victim plays that, you know, nothing is their fault, and it's always, you know, it was always my fault. Everything was my fault, okay? And then I was overly responsible. This is the thing too. I played this mother overly responsible role. Okay, again, it's coming from this place of safety and needing to have some sort of control. Because if you're needing, say, if you're going into some sort of control, and I don't mean like controlling necessarily, but like and needing control in your life, it's because you don't feel safe. And then no wonder I kept attracting unsafe people, or creating situations that weren't safe for me. Okay, so by the end of looking at how we can be responsible for this, this becomes empowerment, because then you get to choose differently, then you get to show up differently. Okay, so, you know, some of the things I explore, and this is where I get my clients to change their story. We start telling the victimized perspective, so we can get rid of and clear all the, not rid of, but clear a lot of the emotional stuff. You know, we're always going to have emotions that are there, that come up in the space, and it's about embracing them, okay, and not suppressing them. And then we go through these processes to clear stuff and look at our the way that we showed up and our patterns, and then we get to tell the empowered story. So I'll get the client, okay, now tell me your empowered story. And it will come from, well, I can see that I showed up this way. I can see how I enabled the behavior. And then we go, okay, so now what commitments can you make going forward from here? And what are the things you now need to work on? Okay, what are some of the things that you can start working on, like things like healthy boundaries? And this is what I take all my clients through this. We then go and work on all that stuff that they need to work on, right? So one of the things we work on is like the beliefs. Okay, so what are the beliefs about men, about women, about life, about, you know, life's not safe, people are abusive, or I always get hurt, or people leave me, whatever it is, you know, I'm not worthy. And I remember there was a time that I didn't even believe I could have a healthy relationship. I was like, that's just not even in my reality, right? This is like, oh my God, like I don't even know how that looks, right? And I'd associated love and abuse as the same thing, and there was a payoff. And this is the other thing too, you know, when we keep going back and back to these situations, there's a payoff, okay? Otherwise, why would we go back? There's something that we're getting. And for me, it was obviously proving this belief that I was loved because I was experiencing abuse. Like, it's because he loves me so much that he abuses me, like this sort of thinking, right? And one of my exes actually said that, I don't know why I abuse you so much. It's supposed to be because I love you so much. And then things like, going back and having all that love, and I'm so sorry, and that empathy, and like, you deserve better, and I'm going to treat you better, and cuddles, and all this stuff was like this, getting all loved up. And that was a payoff for me. Like, I was like, okay, so after the punishment comes this love. Okay, so it was almost like in my brain, I was like, okay, it's going to be worth it, like, because he's going to love me up. Like, and he's going to love me up. And then, you know, it would be this cycle again and again. So it had these belief systems that were playing out, that were disempowering me about love and abuse, effectively, you know, going hand in hand. Okay, so I hope this is resonating for some of you. And please let me know if it is making sense, or, if it's making sense, or you're getting a lot out of this. I would love to know. The beauty of this is that we can shift all this stuff, right? And so what I really work on with my clients is like really looking at those belief systems and shifting them and changing them and turning them to more empowered beliefs that help you to really love and honor yourself first. Okay, so it's super important. And this is where the self-love and the self-worth and the healing the shame and healing the guilt really comes in, is that we have to focus on healing those deep wounds that keep being replayed out and triggered, that generally stem from childhood. Okay, so it's really, you know, important to do that. And I do a lot of inner child healing. So I work with inner child. I do somatic emotional release work, and yeah, and just to start clearing all that stuff. Like, so it's just not even in your reality. Like, it's not even in your reality to attract something like that again. And suddenly you just wouldn't even, like, the self-worth and your self-love is such a high vibration and a high level that these people won't even like come into your radar. And if you do, like I teach, you know, understanding the red flags and tuning into your intuition. So that's another thing, is like working on your intuition and you know, looking at your boundaries and establishing new boundaries and how to communicate those boundaries, all of that stuff, and managing your own emotional triggers, because you're only human, right? Okay, so I mean, I had times where I would get triggered and he would get triggered, and then we just trigger, it's like trigger central. Now I have all the tools to manage any triggers, which I now do consistently, which means I get triggered much less now, because I don't have the same, I know how to meet my own needs. And this is another key thing, is like knowing how to meet your own needs and knowing how to put yourself first and honor, love, respect, and value yourself first. Then if you do that, it'll be reflected back to you, and you don't put up with anything less, right? And so really important is like learning how to manage your emotions and connect to your emotions and to your feelings, right? Another thing I really love exploring is understanding our attachment styles and understanding happy chemicals. So a lot of that plays out at the start of our relationships, where, you know, our oxytocin, our dopamine, and our serotonin is at an all-time high. Yeah. Yeah. The filter, no makeup. I've got makeup on, got a little makeup on. Yeah. So I don't know where I was going with that. I got distracted. I should not reply to comments. So really important is to, attachment styles, happy chemicals. Just totally got distracted. And so you know, all those things, all those chemicals that are all-time high, and we're literally on love drugs. So we may give our power away more easily and make decisions because we're literally on these love drugs, right? So this is stuff, all this stuff is really important to look at, okay? And it just completely shifts you for a relationship and changes. Yeah. So basically this is a big part of the work that I do, and I'm really passionate about it. And what really, really saddens me is when I meet people that haven't done the healing, or are in a space where they're still victims, or they still see themselves as victims, or they're empowered but from a place of, you know, I'm going to be tough and strong now. Okay, that was in the past, I'm going to be tough and strong, but they're completely disconnected from their hearts, they're closed down, they're not emotionally available. And so this is, you know, I see this, and some people are not ready to hear this, but I hope that by me going through the steps, this is helping a lot of people to understand what I mean, okay? And what I mean by empowering yourself after abuse, so that you can, you know, really love yourself and have that be reflected back to you. Okay, so it's really important. So if does anyone have any questions, please let me know. If you're rewatching this, please feel jump on and ask me questions or PM me. You know, if you are out there and you know that whether it's like past healing, like past stuff you've been through that you know still kind of comes up in the present, or you're feeling a bit closed down and you like to be more open to love, or you like to have more you know, be more open or have more self-love or self-worth, anything that I've spoken about basically, please feel free to PM me. I do a lot of online work and I have online programs, but I also run a 3-day healing intensive. It's called the Integrated Women's Relationship Intensive. And this will just basically take you through everything that I've gone through, and a whole bunch of other stuff as well. That's also on Facebook. I can pop the link up. I'll pop the link up on here if you do want to check it out. This is on the Gold Coast. I'm looking to do one in Perth as well. So we'll see though. I'm still working all those dates out and everything. But I'm going to do this on a regular basis. But I also do online. So I do a lot of online stuff as well. So all of this stuff can be done online as well. So yeah, that's about most of it, and I just want to say that I'm so grateful to everyone who's jumped on, and thank you for being here and listening. And if you know there's someone out there that's been through abuse or suffering in any type of relationship and needs to hear this, please feel free to share it. Okay, just having this awareness sometimes is enough. Okay. I also have a group on Facebook called Heal Your Love Wounds. In there is a 5-day video, 5 videos, where you can actually go through this, a bit of a process around this. Okay. So yeah, so if you can't, you know, if you're not in a space to reach out to me, or you're, you know, not able to get help, that's just a nice free thing that you can do. Jump in the group, follow the videos, and start taking yourself through some healing. Okay. And that will really get you started. Yeah, I can't. Sorry, hi Karen. I'm just checking this last. Yeah, exactly. Another way is when we do things out of obligation, particularly around, you know, sex. We feel obligating. This also comes back to the pleasing, the needing to please, or, you know, giving our power away to keep the other person happy or keep the peace. Yeah, totally. And it is important just to, sometimes we just need to stop. And to stop for a second and go, is this in my truth? Does this feel good for me? If I loved myself, would I say yes to this? And this is what we have to ask ourselves consistently. Otherwise, we're giving up. Is it in my truth? Or am I doing this to be liked, to be wanted, to keep the peace? Okay, and this is where we become disempowered. So sometimes the empowerment is in the choice. When we always have a choice, right? And, you know, even if we are in those abusive situations, there's help out there. Okay, there's lines. I'll put the phone number up for the DV line. There's lines out there that, you know, and I really put my heart out to anyone that's going through stuff. I know that I know how hard it is, but I promise you, when you get out and you get on the other side, you're going to be so grateful that you did, and you're going to look back and go, I wish I left sooner. Like, that's the only thing. I mean, a part of me is like grateful for the experiences I had that I had, even, you know, when I didn't leave, because there was more I had to get, and more lessons that I got. But please don't let that be a reason to stay, right? Because that's actually a thought I had, was, oh, maybe I just need to get this lesson for longer. So I may look back and I'm grateful for the experience, but at the same time, I know that I could have left a lot earlier, and if I could go back now, but I probably would make the choice. And there's times when I was so when I had left and I went back, and I was like, why did I go back? Like, why? And it ended up costing me a lot more money and a lot more broken stuff and a lot more emotional pain. So yeah, and just know that help's out there. Okay, it's out there. There's lots of people that want to support you, and there's no shame in where you're at, wherever you're on your journey. There's no shame. And if you're out of the situation, please feel free to contact me, because this is the time when you kind of have been out, or you've been out of it for a while, or it's super in the past. This is a great time to start this. So, you know, I meet so many people who are single and wanting love, but they're just so closed off. They can't even, you know, it's almost not safe to fall in love. It's almost not safety, you know, it's not safe enough. And I've definitely experienced that, and stuff I've really been exploring is, how do we create safety in relationship? How do we have a healthy relationship? How do we communicate in a way? This is the other thing I teach, is conscious communication tools. Communication that creates safety, like that we can hold space for the other person, where we can talk about, you know, why we might not want to do things if it isn't our truth, without making the other person wrong. Or, yeah, it's amazing when you start exploring this stuff. Really, it's so amazing. Yeah, okay, I keep talking, and I didn't mean to keep talking, but this is a very passionate topic of mine. So yeah, so just to add to that, you know, abuse is not okay in any form. It's not okay, okay? But if to heal ourselves, to empower ourselves, there is a journey to go on, okay? And this journey is going to require self-reflection. It is going to require commitments to make to ourselves, but not from a place of shutting ourselves down, but from a place of being in our light and standing in our light, and not hiding, and not being afraid to be in our truth, and just speaking up for ourselves. So here I am, speaking up, you know, and being in my truth. And I hope that this has inspired some of you to do the same. Thank you for listening. Bye.